Peace YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be on something that I am very disappointed in, but has to be talked about. As a huge fan of this band, I feel it is important that I talk about this and kind of talk about my feelings about this current album and just how I felt about this band for a while now. Fall Out Boy's Mania. Now, I have also done a Fall Out Boy Mania review on my blog, iceturtlegirl.blog, and if you don't know, I personally am a very large Fall Out Boy fan. I have been a Fall Out Boy fan since I was 14 years old. They are one of the very first bands that I fully discovered on my own, and being that I come from the generation where we did not have Spotify's, we barely had iTunes, we didn't really have streaming services and everything like that, I didn't really get to fully embrace that side of the music scene. So growing up, whatever was on the radio was kind of how I got new music into my mind. And so for me, I listened to the rock station because at the time my best friend was going through sort of a phase during that time, and she was getting more heavily into the rock music and like metal music and stuff like that, and so I wanted to kind of follow suit. So I started listening to a lot of rock music, and for me, metal music isn't really my thing, my vibe, but I kind of gravitated towards the pop punk and emo bands of that scene. So for me, the bands that, I sort of grew up on, that were sort of like the very first bands for me to get into on my own without, influences from like my siblings or my parents, were bands like Fall Out Boy and Paramore, Panic at the Disco, Gym Class Heroes, Tokyo Hotel, and very many other various bands from Linkin Park to various other bands, right? And during that time, I was just really discovering music in a new, tangible way that I'd never discovered music before. Now, that being said, Fall Out Boy was the first band that really gravitated me towards this type of music. And I've been a fan of them for over 10 years, 11 years. And the first song I ever listened to by them was Sugar We're Going Down, and From Under the Cork Trees, a dope album. I love Infinity on High. It's my favorite album of all time of Fall Out Boys. And you can definitely check out a video I actually put out last year for the 10th anniversary of Infinity on High and why I love it so much. Please check it out. And then there was Fully Ado. And Fully Ado wasn't my favorite Fall Out Boy album, but I mean, it's not horrible. It's really not. It's actually pretty amazing. I still need to truly get into it, fully, but it is an amazing album. And then they went on their hiatus, and then they came back, Say Rock and Roll happened, that was really cool, and then American Beauty, American Psycho happened, and I really do like a lot of songs on there. Now we are in current, present day Fall Out Boy. And being that I am an older Fall Out Boy fan, so I've been around with Fall Out Boy for over 10 years, I've seen Fall Out Boy going through a whole lot of changes, right? And that being said, I've been able to see them at their peak, at their height, when they were amazing. And I've been able to see them sort of come down and be more mediocre. Now, hear me out, hear me out. Being that I am an older Fall Out Boy fan, I automatically can tell when Fall Out Boy have become kind of mediocre. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like them, that doesn't mean I hate them, that doesn't mean I'm dissing Fall Out Boy. I still have a tremendous amount of love for this band. They're one of the first bands I got into, remember that. And just because I'm saying that they've become kind of mediocre now, does not mean that I still don't like them. Remember that. You are able to criticize a band or an artist without hating them. Now, the reason why I think that Fall Out Boy have become kind of mediocre lately is because Pete Wentz. And don't get me wrong, because 14-year-old Aisa was obsessed with Pete Wentz. 26-year-old Aisa, less obsessed but still loves Pete Wentz. So I still have a tremendous amount of love and respect for Pete Wentz, but at the exact same time, I kind of have a lot of things that bother me about him at this current moment, and I will tell you why. One, Pete Wentz tries to make Fall Out Boy out to be the hip-hop, rock gods of like the top 40 radio stations. They always are talking about how they're the last band standing on top 40, which, I mean, I guess they're sort of right. I mean, there is Imagine Dragons, don't really like them. There is Maroon 5, I mean, the Adam Levine Experience. And I mean, there is Panic! At the Disco, but that's the Ben and Yuri solo project, and, well, I feel some type of way about that, but that's for another day. My point really being is, Pete Wentz thinks that Fall Out Boy is supposed to cater to these young kids, the new generation, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I actually have a lot of respect for the new generation and a lot of the things that they are able to bring into this world, musically, culturally, all of it, right? But not everything that your generation does is amazing, because not everything that my generation did was amazing, and everything my sister's generation in the 80s and 90s was amazing, not everything about my parents' generation from the 70s, 60s, and 50s, and 40s were amazing either. So you have to remember this. Not all of our generation's things that we have done or will do are totally amazing. I look back at things from my childhood and I'm like, what were we thinking, honestly? And so I feel like Pete Wentz isn't really taking the really amazing things about this generation, and he's kind of taking the more mediocre road when trying to cater to this generation. And the things that I mean by that is like, his tweets are very much catering towards this generation. When he puts out, and when Crush Management and, you know, DCD2, which is basically Pete Wentz, when they put out these new merch, right? And it'll be like Stranger Things themed, or they'll put out a Fall Out Boy fidget spinner, or all this stuff that's like really not necessary, has nothing to do with the music, and it's just to make money. Another thing, the music, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, but the music is totally pandering towards the young kids, and their interviews are totally pandering towards the young kids. And sometimes I can tell in interviews when they don't want to say the wrong thing, so they automatically default to saying something that sounds really cool, sounds really like masterful, but really it's not. And I can tell because I've seen so many different Fall Out Boy interviews over my 10 years of loving them that, you know, I personally feel some type of way when I see them in interviews not really owning up to their level of potential, kind of just like not, I don't even know how to really describe it, they're kind of just not really like vibing, if that's all I can say. They're not really vibing, and to me that really kind of bothers me. Now, this is a Mania review, so I'm going to get into the music in a moment, but if you'd like to see more of why Fall Out Boy kind of have been letting me down lately, and kind of have been mediocre, check out my video I did on Fall Out Boy delaying Mania back when I heard about it back during last summer. I made a video on it, and it kind of goes over why I feel the way I do about Fall Out Boy and the things that they have accomplished this time around. And in that video I actually talk about why I think that they should break up. And don't hate me, but I'm an older Fall Out Boy fan, like I said, and so I've seen them go through a lot of things over the years, and I just feel like they don't have their mojo anymore, and I feel like if they took a hiatus again, maybe they'll find it, because granted, Save Rock and Roll and AP was not their best material by far, but it was 10 times better than Mania. And I'm just going to be out and out and blatant about it, because honestly, that's just how I feel. I honestly feel that those two albums were better than Mania, but definitely not better than some of the stuff that they made when I was growing up. And so it's just a kind of a mess, and yeah, so that's sort of just how I feel about this band at this point in their career. But I mean, I will always have mad love for Fall Out Boy, and honestly, I mean, they're always going to be my number one band. I've seen them twice live. I really do love this band, and what can I say? They were the first band to get me into so many different kinds of music, and I really do appreciate them for that. And I really love the whole band. Patrick, Pete, Andy, and Joe. You guys are amazing. So yeah.